Well, AP, you've had a couple of days to reflect on your decision. You still pleased with what you've said?
Look, it was a decision, look, that I felt that had to be made, and it was something that I obviously hadn't taken lightly. When I was first asked about it the other day, when I'd first thought about it, I said 5 years ago, and in some ways I was joking, and in other ways I wasn't, because 5 years ago I did think, I felt good. I felt that I could try and hopefully win another 5 Jockeys Championships, and if that got me to 20, it would be a great number. And I brought it up in conversation with JP at the end of April last year after Jet Ski won in Punchestown, and I just happened to mention it to him that it's possible that it could be my last year. See how, and obviously JP was being JP, great with his words of wisdom. Was see how you feel and see how things go, and that was very much always the plan. I was lucky that I had such a great start to the season. Rode my fastest 50th winner, my fastest 100th winner, my fastest 150th winner, and genuinely believed I was going to ride 300 winners. And I thought the more that I got, the more winners I was riding, the more I actually thought it would be an even better way to retire. Sadly I got injured at Worcester, and that put an end to all that.
JP's not only your boss though, he's a man that you respect tremendously. What he'd said in that conversation would have influenced you.
Look, well, he doesn't always say a lot, but what he does say is worth listening to, and he's a great man for advice.
Was he surprised?
I don't know. I'm not sure. He's obviously my boss, but he's I've got a more than a boss relationship with him. We've got a very good friendship, or a great friendship, which I'm very lucky to have, and he's someone that I would always take his advice and try and do the best I can with it, if you like. And
do you think he's half relieved then?
No, I don't know. It never came up in conversation again from then, and from then until actually it was briefly mentioned over Christmas. I'd said it to him again. Just because I always had the fear, look, about carrying on too long. I always had the fear that if I left it until after Cheltenham or after Liverpool, that there would be speculation from people who would be well aware that it was possibly going to be my 20th year being champion jockey, and there might be speculation that I might retire, I might not retire, and I didn't want to be reading about the speculation. I didn't want to be having people speculating about my career. I wanted it to be on my terms. And when I spoke to JP and to Dave Roberts about the decision about announcing it when I rode my 200th winner, it was purely because it was something that I felt was an achievement, and it was something that obviously Dave, I and JP had felt that normally you would retire and just be done with it, but I kind of felt, and the three of us kind of felt, that it was best to maybe let people know that I was retiring and ride for a couple of months and enjoy what's left of my riding career, if you like.
Was there any sort of pressure? Was it the pressure from the outside, as you said, people going on for too long? Was it that as much as anything?
A lot of things. Look, I've been very lucky in my career, to stay relatively in one piece for 20 years. It takes a bit of doing, let alone to try and win the Jockeys Championship 20 years, so I was always aware that I was lucky that I was able to do that, and I did have a fear that I've always lived in the fear that I might not be able to achieve what I wanted to achieve, and in some ways I've enjoyed every minute of my riding career. I've enjoyed every winner and obviously every winner that I've been lucky enough to have, but the days that you don't have winners, you have days that you don't have winners, and the fear of those days happening again kind of drives you on, and sometimes it kind of takes the enjoyment away from it at times, and I just felt that I think there's a better chance of me enjoying my last sort of 2 months of my riding career, whatever's left of it, if I got it out in the open, and
it must be galling, AP. I watched you on Carlingford Lock. There was no other jockey probably would have won on that horse. You gave that a brilliant ride. You're still the best jockey. In some ways, I know everyone wants you to retire. I'm slightly the other way.
Yeah, look, I have never in my life ever thought I was the best jockey. I've always been very confident when I go out in a race to think that I can win on any horse that I go out on. I've never had the ego to think that, you know, that the brilliant jockeys that there's been in Ireland and England before me, you know, people like, you know, if you go back as far as John Joe, Peter Scuddymore, John Frankham, Richard and Woody in my time, and then in Ireland you'd obviously, you know, people like, I mean, JP said Tommy Carey was a brilliant rider, Frank Berry was 10-time champion jockey, Charlie Swan was a multiple champion jockey. You know, and then in recent times you've obviously had Ruby and Barry and Dickie Johnson. I never in my life ever thought that I was better than any of those people, you know. But at the same time, when I go out on a horse, I'm very happy that I can compete, and I think that I'm every bit as good as
no one even
what they are,
stepping
you know.
heels, though, is there?
Yeah, look, in terms of numbers, numerically there's probably not, you know, but you know, you need to look. As I said, I wanted to go out while I was still enjoying it. I wanted to go out while I was still riding well. I said the other day that I wanted people to be asking why I was retiring and not why I wasn't retiring. You know, I wanted it to be, you know, I wanted to be go before people thought that I should go. You know, so I wanted it to be. Look, I wouldn't say there was an element of surprise, but there was probably an element of surprise when I announced it on Saturday. And I kind of wanted it to be that way, you know. I didn't want it to be dragging out, and you know, and as I said, I wanted it to be on my terms, and I wanted it, you know, I wanted to feel happy and proud about it, you know.
I probably know you as well as anybody, and I think the body blow was at 300. You had that. You were single-minded about that, weren't you?
Yeah, look, I don't mind admitting that emotionally broke me. I think, you know. Because when I started at the beginning of this season, you know, I was, you know, well aware that obviously Jason was injured. I was going to be riding a lot for Donald. I've been lucky to ride for Donald. When Jason was off, John Joe's horse were flying, and I had it in my mind, like I've always had. You know, it's not something I'd ever talk about, but I was going to go out. If it was going to be my last year, I was going to go out and give it my best, and I had an unbelievably good start. As I said, rode them fastest 50, fastest 100, 150, and then when I got the fall that day in Worcester.
I was there. That was sickening.
Yeah, it kind of, look, the pain wasn't the pain of not being able to get up, and the pain of not being able to go back riding when I wanted to go back riding would far outweigh the physical pain. You know, it was more the mental and emotional pain that something that I thought for 20 years that I hadn't been able to achieve. I thought it was that close, and I genuinely thought I'd be able to do it, and you know, got the fall, and you know, went and had x-rays, and I punctured my lung and I dislocated my collarbone and broke a couple of ribs, as I said. You know, and then I went back riding after 3 days, you know, and look, I wasn't being brave about anything. I was able to do press-ups and do the whole lot. I mean, have doctors pushing on my shoulder and my collarbone, and you know, just sort of smiling it didn't hurt, and went back riding, and then I managed to get a fall again not long later, and managed to break the same collarbone that I dislocated. So that was the end, and probably for those 3 weeks while I was at home, I was broken, to be honest.
I can remember as a Worcester, I think I remember saying to you, this will win, a horse called Arzal, and I remember going up and watching you being legged up on the horse, and I knew, I mean, I don't mind saying, I think I'd have won on it. I mean, it was horrific. It was, because you'd lost it mentally, really.
Yeah, I couldn't give up. Literally couldn't give up. Couldn't face the fact of not riding, you know, because I thought, I cannot afford to have a day off, because if I want to ride 300 winners, I have to keep going. I have to go out. And funny enough, the same thing happened to, I don't mind talking about, but Jamie Moore got a fall in Cheltenham. The race before, he was meant to ride Black Lion, the novice hurdle, and he came in and he looked at me and he said, have you got any painkillers? I said, what's wrong with you? He said, my collarbone. He took his shirt off and I could see his collarbone was sticking out. And I said, Jamie, I said, I'm not one to talk, I want to give you advice because I'm the worst. He said, but I did that I tried to ride with that, and he said, it's not going to do you any favours. And it doesn't, you know, but we're not the brightest bunch in the world, so.
Are you big enough would JP or would Dave Roberts say that AP, come on, you're making half a foot. You know, there's a thin line between being
Yeah.
the bravest jockey and being a fool.
No, I knew after Chepstow I didn't need to be told. I knew myself. I look at my shoulder was like a football. You know, I literally came in off that first horse and I rang the doctor and I said to the doctor, I said I need to go and see Julian Widdowson, who's the head doctor in Bath Rugby Club, who's been able to, along with Doc Pritchard, sort of keep me together for a long time, and went to see Julian that evening, and he basically said that I'd broke the collarbone, I dislocated, which he said was impossible, literally. So that was the end. I knew I didn't need to be told. I knew myself, you know.
And was that the sort of, that was the start of, right, reality check here, you know, I'm not going to achieve anymore?
Yeah, I knew that. I knew then, because I couldn't afford the days off. You know, you don't need to be a great mathematician to work out there's only 365 days in the year, and you know that's only 65 days in the year. You can't ride a winner. You know, it's, if someone said to you there's only going to be 65 days in the year, you're not going to ride a horse in a race. You know, 300 rides in a year is a lot for a lot of lads. You know, so to try and ride 300 winners, you can't afford to have an hour off, never let alone a day. You know, so I knew that was gone, and once that was gone, I had the 3 weeks off. I went on holidays, and I basically just tried to get my head around getting back to having nothing to chase, if you like, and then it was just about trying to win the Jockeys Championship for another time if I could. And
Chanel's been trying to retire you for the last 5 years. So was she pleased? I mean, you obviously had a family conversation.
She along with my mum and dad, she had plenty of support in the trying to retire me stakes. The truth of it is, look, that JP was the only one that had any idea, had any privacy to the fact that I might be considering retiring. I invited Dave Roberts down here on Monday night for dinner last Monday night to have the conversation with him. And Chanel had a little inclination, but she didn't know the conversation that was going to take place. And so, you know,
you respect him that much, Dave? I mean, he's
yeah. He's every horse that I've ever ridden in this country, he's had something to do with. Mm-hmm. And you know, he was the confident. You know, he was the one person that I wanted to tell before. You know, other than JP, he was the only other person. I told him before Chanel. You know, my mum and dad found out on TV on Channel 4 on Saturday. You know, so you know that was the way I wanted it to be. You know, I as I said to my wife once about keeping a secret, I can keep a secret. It's that I tell that can't keep the secret, you know. I
quite like the fact that you've got all these sort of different obligations with different companies and different firms and everything, but in actual fact, you still did it typical pig-headed you did it on your own terms.
Yeah, look, that was the way, as Chanel said again, she said I was a jammy so-and-so because, you know, I had decided this on Monday night. I had probably 7 or 8 winners to ride before the weekend. Managed to ride a few winners, had a winner at Kempton on the Friday to get me on 198. Won the first race for John Ferguson on QE in Newbury on Saturday, and then managed to ride my 200th winner on a horse of JP's, Mr. Mole, for Paul, and be able to announce it on live television. You know, she said that doesn't happen to people that are not lucky. And obviously, if Mr. Mole hadn't have won, I wasn't going to announce it because I wanted it to be on my 200th winner. So when I went to Leopardstown yesterday, no one would have known. You know, it would have been great to win the Hennessy, but I don't think the just the people of Leopardstown yesterday, the emotion, the atmosphere, you know, after I won in Carlingford coming down in front of the stands was, you know, it literally had the hair standing on the back of my neck. You know, the reception I got was something I'll never forget, and it was great to do that back at home, you know.
That was extra special, and you could see. I don't think I've seen you that animated since the Grand National.
Yeah, it was extra special, and look, it's probably the last time I'll ever ride in Leopardstown. It's probably, you know, definitely up there with one of the most prestigious jump races in the Irish jumps calendar. You know, but obviously with the Irish Grand National, there's a few others, but. And as I say, it was the fact that it was probably going to be the last time I'll ever ride around Leopardstown. So there was a lot of emotion to it, but the people in Ireland and Leopardstown made it very special.
You must feel quite proud. You know, I was lucky enough to be at Toaster when you rode your 4000s, and people love you, don't they? When you think you were anti-media when you started off, you were you just wanted to ride a horse. They love you.
Yeah, look, I probably wasn't, my wife keeps telling me that she's had to work on my social skills, and that's basically down to her doing rather than anyone else's. But look, I was very self-centered, very selfish. I'm still, my wife, some they'll probably tell you I'm still self-centered and very selfish, but even more so then. I was wrapped up in my own little world, that nothing was going to get in my way, and nothing was as important as me riding winners, and what else went on in the big bad world wasn't important. But as you get a little bit older, you pick things up and you do. And the sport has been very good to me. So you want to do a little bit, give a little bit back. And if you can make the sport better, or get it, make the sport better, get it good publicity, and do what's good for the sport, then that's something I believe that I should do.
It's a very structured life you've got at the moment. Scouse picks you up, Dave sorts your rides out, you go off to the races, you ride 4 or 5 horses, couple of winners, you come back, bit of tea, go to bed. It's going to be so different, isn't it? There's going to be no structure to your life at all. You're terrible in the mornings.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of those things. When I came to England first, Richard Dunwoody was champion jockey. He was the best jockey that I'd ever seen. He was the hardest man that I'd ever seen. I learned so much from looking at Richard Dunwoody, both good and bad. I'm a very selfish, obsessive, self-centered person. Probably not in the same league as him. He wanted to do everything for himself. He wanted to ring trainers. He wanted to get on the best horse all the time. He wanted to drive himself to the races. He wanted to book all his flights. He wanted to do everything himself. And it wasn't being clever, but I kind of felt that if I wanted to have a longevity, I couldn't live a life like that and do it for a long period of time. There would come a time when going to Catterick today or going to Ayr tomorrow was going to be a bit of a drag, and thinking, I don't really want to do that. And at that early stage in my life, I wanted to get a structure that would make it as easy as possible, make it that all that was important to me was riding horses, that nothing was going to get in my way. I just had to turn up at the races. As my friend David Manasseh in there would say, you do 5 minutes work 5 or 6 times a day, so in total you do half an hour's work every day, and you get back in the car and you go to sleep and you go home. But I wanted that my life to be like that. I wanted it to be, the only importance there was to me was to be winning.
But how do you replicate that? How can you need something? You need someone to challenge you. You're like that. You're that sort of person.
Yeah, that's
goals.
That's Chanel. Chanel says that she's. I said, oh, when I retire, what are you going to do? I'm going to play golf, and I'll be ringing Carl and Frankham and Fitzy. And she said, yeah, it'll be okay for a day or two. She said, but you're an obsessive person. She said, you have bad news for you. She said, it won't just work like that. And maybe I do need something to drive me. Maybe I need. But look, I'm a realist. Look, I know that what I do is never going to be like riding horses. I'm never going to get the buzz. I'm never going to have the same. Look, maybe I will have the same drive and the same will, because I like trying to be good at what I do, But the thing about having a longevity of something, or you have to really, really want to do it every day, And I've been lucky that I was in Catterick today. I came home tonight. I'm going back to Ayr tomorrow for 3 rides in Ayr tomorrow. I want to do it.
But if you were to train, which is John Frankham tried that. You can't get you're never going to be as good a trainer as you ever were a jockey, obviously.
No, and to be honest, I've been asked the question about training a lot. And funny enough, if someone put a gun to my head and said I had to, I would actually rather train flat horses.
Yeah.
And if you want to train flat horses, then you look at Aidan O'Brien. He's won 11 Irish derbies. He's won 5 English derbies. He's won every classic there is going. And he's 5 years older than I am. So what's the point? What's the point of even starting with that? I'm never going to get to beat whatever records he's going to set, am I? And then you obviously need to have the power of Sheikh Mohammed or of John Magner, and that's not going to happen. So that's kind of knocked training on the head.
But you'll still have horses. You're right. I mean, some jockeys go down the route. They get fat afterwards. They don't want to. They don't sit on a horse for 10 years. You're not going to.
That's not for me.
No.
I like riding. I can see myself. I can see myself going to school in John Joe's the odd morning and riding a few of the horses for JP around the country. You know what I mean?
Bit like John Frankham sort of thing.
Yeah. I enjoy riding. Obviously I'll miss the buzz of winning. I'll miss the buzz of going to races. But I like going to school, and I like you get a bit of a kick from it, and you ride a nice horse. So I will do that. the idea of getting fat, sure, I'd like to eat nice things in the morning and have breakfast and all that, but I like being fit. You know, I'm not going to be a fat person, and that's just, you know, I like, you know, I've been doing a good bit of work on the bike recently and that, and I might, you know, I've got a few friends who want me to do the amateur stages of the Tour de France, so might have a little go at that.
That's quite interesting then.
Who knows? Yeah, but look, it's just I don't know. First and foremost, I'm going to sit back and sort of have a look at what happened and
play a bit of golf, watch Arsenal.
Play a bit of golf. You know, there's things I'd like to do. As I said to someone, I'd like to watch Rory win the Masters. I'd like to go to Vegas and watch Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao fight. I'd like a miracle and like Arsenal to win the Champions League, but that is a miracle. And there's sporting events that I haven't been to look, and I like sport. I love good sport, you know. So.
And funny enough, and I don't mean this in a rude sort of way, get to know your wife and your children in a different sort of way, isn't it?
I might want to do that, but I'm not sure the wife would be really keen in getting to know me that well. But yeah, look, the great thing about my kids is I know that they are the two people in the world that do really like me. So even the other day when Archie was at the races, I had him for a while, and when I left, he started crying, and when I went back, he stopped crying. So whatever about anyone else, I know even Archie are always going to be on side.
And just between now and the end of the season, now that you've announced it, is that going to make you feel slightly different? I remember announcing I was going to retire the next day, and I remember going down to the last hurdle thinking, oh, this looks pretty big, you know, because or do you wish you'd done it in a different way? Not really. This was the way I wanted it to be. And you say, but you go down to the last hurdle in your last day and think, oh, this is pretty big. Again, I'm not saying that I'm less brave than I was 20 years ago, or I'm more brave than 20 years. I know the dangers. It's dangerous. You know what I mean? It's about having, it's a calculated risk. That's what it is, and it's about making sure that calculated risk is as less as possible, or as least as possible. So, again, for that reason, that's why I'll be happy to go in school afterwards, because I like that little bit of a kick. You know, I like. You have to have a little bit of. There has to be something that, you know, you get a little bit of thrill out of in life to keep you on the edge and to keep you feeling alive, as they say. Your life has been about peaks and troughs and wonderful highs. If, hey, let's imagine Carlingford Lock were to go and win the Gold Cup, you'd surely just say good luck and thanks. Yeah, possibly, but I'd like another go in the Grand National, I think, beforehand. You know, I think I'd like another go in the Grand National. So, but look, if it comes around and it happens that I win the Gold Cup. But if I win the Gold Cup and Carlingford Lock, and I do, as Ruby would say, throw your hat into the crowd like you tried to get me to do on Saturday, you know, would I be then thinking about Aintree going, thinking there's a horse there that I would really like to ride? That's going to happen next year and the year after, I'm well aware of that, but maybe I would like another go at the Grand National before I retire. You're not going to do a Spencer, are you? About 2 months down the line, going, oi, come back. I jokingly, when I pulled up on Saturday, Dave Roberts was out on the track when I pulled up Mr. Mould, and he said, are you okay? I was a little bit emotional. He goes, yeah. I said, I have to do. I said, I'm doing the right thing, aren't I? And he goes, yeah. You know, and he didn't know whether I was meaning retire or to say it now, or he had no idea what I was thinking, but I was half, you know, thinking about doing a whip around, but no, look, it's the right thing. It's the right time. Look, there'll be days I'll be at home. I'll be watching horses that I could have ridden. There'll be mixed emotions, but I won't be bitter about it. Look, I've had 20 years, you know, riding at as high a level as I could ever have dreamt of, and I know that in sport you can't keep going forever. So I'm a realist. You know, when the time comes, I will go racing the next day. I'll enjoy watching it. I'll enjoy being an expert like everyone else and saying what someone did wrong and what they did right, and you know, and I'll enjoy going racing. I'll enjoy watching the good horses, and I'll watch those horses JPs, and I will be cheering them on more than anyone. I hope to God that every one of them gets better and better as time goes on, because that's what I want when I retire. It's a very hard job being in the media, but you know, do you reckon you could do that as well? Well, what I've found in the media just in more recent years is that I have some qualifications that you don't have to look a lot. So
So therefore, and if things are going really bad, I could always sit between yourself and Weaver on a Friday night, and I'll look like Brad Pitt. So, so there are possibilities. If my confidence is low and I'm feeling bad about myself, if I maybe have put on a little bit of weight or things are happening, then I'll just go and park myself up and get in the Friday night, and I'm sure I'll come out of there at 9 o'clock buzzing on a Friday evening, thinking life's not that bad after all.
But looking forward now, in a way, it's a time to celebrate, isn't it? I mean, you've been brilliant with the interviews. I mean, literally every radio station, television station, the length and breadth of the land want to interview you.
Yeah, and look, the way I see that is that I should be very privileged that anyone wants to interview me. You know, this time next year, as David in there says to me, I'll be getting no phone calls. No one will be wanting to interview
well,
me. You know, there'll be the few lads that that I see all the time around that'll be my friends. But this will all be gone. But on the other side of it, I feel that I've been very lucky, and as I said, racing has been so good to me. And if I can give a little bit back, and I can get racing, away from just racing and get it a little bit more publicity or a little bit of good publicity, then I feel like that's my job. That's my, that's what I should do, because for the reasons that I said, it's been very good to me.
And just finally, would you feel comfortable sort of living a life of racing through your children if Archie
more
Eve?
So okay, Archie more so, Eve not so sure.
You wouldn't like it. You wouldn't like it if she.
I'm not sure. It's and the only good thing is, whether it be good or bad, she's very like her mother, and in some ways, I think it might be cheaper if I got her into racing rather than into fashion and into clothes. So, in that sense, I might be contradicting myself. It might, in the long run, she might be better off going down the racing route. But it's not for. Look, girls have done good at it. Some of the girls have done fantastically well at it. But I hope Daddy's little girl doesn't get into racing. Archie is a bit more like me. I can see a lot of me in Archie. He's got a bit of temper. His personality's suspect enough. He's his communication skills, I'd say, he's only 18 months, but I'm not sure they're going to be great either. He's not a big fan of nursery at the moment, so there's a lot of me and Archie. So who knows? Maybe that might be the career for him.